Hello, my friends and fellow travelers. My name is Pierce. This is my channel, Tales on the Road. Thanks for stopping by. If you've been here before, welcome back. You're a legend. If you're new to the channel, the goal with these travel guides is to really break down countries, explain in an unbiased way the good, the bad, and the ugly. And today we're going to do that with Bulgaria. This is a country in the southeastern Balkans that is incredibly interesting. I traveled here a couple years ago. I really fell in love with it. They have a lot of awesome things, and I would love to share it with you because not a lot of people travel to Bulgaria. In this video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know before you go to make you possibly inspired for a trip to Bulgaria or to give you information to have a successful trip when you're in the country. If that sounds good, let's get Bulgaria. As we always do with these videos, let's talk a little historical and geographic context. Bulgaria, first and foremost, sits in the southeastern part of the Balkan Peninsula, a very crazy mashup of many different southern European peoples. To the north, you've got Romania. To the southeast, you've got Turkey. To the west, you've got North Macedonia, Serbia, and to the south, of course, Greece. You also have a large border to the east with the Black Sea, which is nice, which means you can do a little beach vibe if it's the summer to the eastern part of Bulgaria. Historically speaking, this region was just in the middle of so many movements of people, but the most important thing to know about Bulgaria is that number one, they are Southern Slavic people. That means that they speak a Slavic language in the same family as Russian, Polish, Serbian, so they're in that sort of group. But the Bulgarians, the ethnic identity of these Southern Slavs, goes back almost 1,000 years. You can find castles and stuff built by the original Bulgarian kings. It's very interesting. That being said, Bulgaria was, of course, part of the Ottoman Empire for a long period of time. We're talking 350, 400 years, of course, being very, very close to Istanbul. And that meant that a lot of the Ottoman culture, the movement of people that was happening through the Ottoman times is very much present in Bulgaria. After the Ottoman Empire broke up into a million pieces, Bulgaria, the idea of it has changed a lot. The borders have changed. It's been a republic. It's been a kingdom. It's been a socialist state. It was a communist state. And now today, in 2024, it's an EU member nation. It's a country with a lot going on. It's got really, really good things to offer, and I can't wait to tell you about it in the next section. Visas. Bulgaria is in the EU, and Bulgaria is in the Schengen zone. The Schengen zone is the free movement trade situation that they have in the EU. I have a whole video about it if you want. But if you're flying into Bulgaria from another European country, you are still basically in the same zone. So if you spend time in Italy, you spend time in France, you spend time in the Netherlands, it also affects how many days you get in Bulgaria. If you come by car, however, because Bulgaria is in this sort of weird zone between we're in the Schengen zone by plane, but we're not in the Schengen zone by land or by sea because the EU doesn't have 100% trust in their border patrol, that means that you do get physically stamped into Bulgaria if you go that way. Regardless of that, you get 90 days in the Schengen zone, so if you spend time in those countries, you do subtract from your time in Bulgaria. Money. In Bulgaria, they do not use the euro, even though they are an EU country. They use their national currency, the Bulgarian lev, or the lion. Right now, it's about 2 Bulgarian lev to $1 US. And the Bulgarian lev is not the strongest currency, so when you travel to Bulgaria, you'll notice that it is much cheaper than when you go to any other Eurozone, euro-using country in Europe. That means that Bulgaria is a good deal when you travel there. Hotels are cheaper. $50, $60 a night can get you something pretty reasonable. If you're in a smaller city in Bulgaria, you can even go less than that. Food is not going to break the bank. You can probably have dinner for around 10 euros. Beer is not very expensive. Wine is not very expensive. Excursions are not necessarily very expensive. And then, of course, transportation within the country is also not particularly expensive. Bulgarians, on average, do not earn that much, like GDP per capita. So that means the country still has to be cheap enough for the people who live there to buy stuff. That being said, this has had a big effect on the future of Bulgaria, as many talented Bulgarians, university students, have decided to leave Bulgaria for better options and earning power in other countries. That's called brain drain. And this is a big thing that Bulgaria is having to deal with at the moment. This means that Sofia, the capital city, is trying to build opportunities, economic ones specifically for their up-and-coming people in their society. So that's going to be the most expensive place that you go. Anywhere else you go in the country, you're going to not break the bank for sure. And that's a good part of traveling in the Eastern Balkans. Safety and security. The safety in Bulgaria, I think, is pretty good. The cities are pretty clean. The people are very friendly, very helpful. The English is basically not spoken anywhere. So if you're really trying to function speaking English in Bulgaria, it's going to be challenging. Also, something to note is that they use Bulgarian Cyrillic, which is basically similar to the Russian style of writing, if you've ever seen that before. In Sofia, the capital, you'll find stuff that's, of course, translated. But when you travel around the country, it can be up and down depending on your access to Latin letter stuff. So just be ready to, practice a little bit or to find a way to translate things so you can understand what's going on. Bulgaria, the one thing that I would say with the security is, number one, beware of taxis. If you can take any sort of online taxi thing, that's a good way to do it. But taxis are known to overcharge people. A funny story I have is I took a taxi in Sofia with my mom. The taxi driver was very friendly, but when he dropped us off, it was like double the price it should have been, but it was still like only 16 euros. So I was like, okay. We just didn't go very far, and I knew it was a ripoff. But as my mom was exiting the car, the taxi driver tried to sell me a little, and I was like, dude, my mom is right there, and also, what is going on? Why are you doing this right now? So maybe beware the taxis. I don't know. In the Balkans in general, if you talk to any Balkan people, they're like, don't take the taxis. Certainly don't take unlicensed taxis off the street. Always a bad choice. That's always my recommendation when you go in this country. Other than that, there are a lot of Roma populations in Bulgaria, also known as gypsies. I'm not using it as a pejorative term, but realistically, while in many cities, they are, of course, normal people with normal jobs, in some places, it's a very sketchy area. So if you find yourself walking around an area that is full of people that are sort of trying to hassle you, specifically gypsies, just be careful of your money, of your wallet. There's a lot of scams that happen with the gypsy communities of many Balkan countries. So it's just something to be aware of. If it doesn't feel like a good part of the city, don't be there. That would be my main thing. Transportation. Getting around Bulgaria is not rocket science, but it does take a little bit of finesse. If you want to take a bus, sometimes the schedules are all in the Bulgarian Cyrillic, and that can be challenging. But if you ask someone, people are always very happy to help. I would always have a Google translator if you're going to a country where you can't read the letters. It's always very important. Flying in, you can fly to two places basically in the country. You can fly to Sofia, the capital, which is kind of smack dab in the center, and more peripherally close to Macedonia and Serbia. You can also, of course, fly into Varna and go to many of the beach resort towns on the Black Sea. Those are kind of your entrance points and exit points. You can, of course, take trains, buses, or even just rent a car in Bulgaria. And if you want to explore other countries on your way out, because it is bordered by 5 countries that are all very interesting, that's also something you can do. The roads in Bulgaria I found weren't so bad. They're not the best. So if you're driving, just make sure to be careful on the roads. There's a lot of mountainous roads in Bulgaria, and also Bulgarians are not well known for following traffic rules 100%. So if you drive anywhere in the Balkans, this is not just Bulgaria. Just drive a little slower, be a little bit safer, and make sure that you get to your destination without flying off a cliff or something. So now on to food. And the food in Bulgaria is legendary, and I love it, and it's the best, and it's awesome. So the first thing that I recommend, if you wake up in the morning, you're gonna wanna grab some banitsa. Banitsa also could go by another name, burek, and it's basically phyllo pastry that is basically strewn with either meats or sort of fresh cheese. They put it in a pan, they cook it in the oven. It's very decadent and rich and crispy and awesome. Like everything about delicious breakfast is the banitsa. Definitely get it. Something nice they have is called tarator. And tarator is something like a tzatziki. So you're imagining garlic, cucumbers, yogurt, but it's thinner, more like a soup, and you eat it kind of before a meal. Absolutely delicious, really good, refreshing, wakes you up. Next up, you can go super hard on the Bulgarian meats and breads and cheeses, which of course you should do. They have great kebabs and sausages and cevapi, all of these good things. I think in Bulgaria they don't call it cevapi, they call it kebabchi. All of it's super good. They have some spicy sauces. The breads are just phenomenal, baked, smooshy, really good. Wash it all down with an ivar or a salted yogurt drink, or maybe a Bulgarian beer, and you are definitely in business. The cool part about Bulgarian food is that when you travel to all the regions around Bulgaria, they have great food, and all of that has been influenced and changed and mixed and like perfected in Bulgaria. So everything good that you find in Greece, you can also find in Bulgaria. Everything good that you find in Turkey, you can also find in Bulgaria. Same with Serbia, same with Romania. It's just a melting pot of cuisine and culture and people. And I think that's what makes Bulgarian food so special. The best part about it for me personally is that it's hyper affordable. So if you want the extra soup, you want the dessert, you want the extra piece of meat that you want to try, just get it. Go for it. Get the stuffed peppers. Get the yogurt sauce. Get an extra piece of bread. Just do it. It's all good. So now let's talk about what to do in Bulgaria when you go visit. It's a country with a lot to offer, and I think it takes a little bit of finesse because there's not as much stuff online. So I think any normal trip starts in Sofia, the capital, probably the logical place that you would fly into. Sofia is a nice city. It's small for capital cities, less than 1 million people for sure. It has a beautiful, Orthodox style basilica that you can go visit. It's probably the most famous thing to do in the city. Regardless of that, the city itself, I wouldn't say is necessarily so beautiful, but it does sit under a large mountain. And so they have a big shopping street with the mountain in the background and with a lot of restaurants, ice cream places. It's very quaint and beautiful. In the winter, the air is, pretty bad. So take that into consideration because they still burn a lot of coal in Sofia. But they definitely have very interesting nightlife. They have very interesting bars and restaurants. The food's really good. And in general, there is that sort of Soviet-esque block housing thing that the majority of Sofia is. But the old center has some nice bones, and it's something to recommend. One thing that I do want to say while I'm talking about Sofia is that I went to an amazing club, don't remember the name, but I was listening to a music style called chalga. Chalga is this amazing music style that's a combination of sort of Turkic Ottoman beats with kind of dramatic but pop style Bulgarian singing. It's amazing dancing. It's also been influenced with a lot of gypsy beats as well, and so the music itself is so cool. If you have Spotify, pop on some chalga for your next party. You will not be disappointed, I promise you. Next up, you just kind of start heading in the country, and there are different spots that you can pick. The most classic spot that is kind of the next place you go is called Plovdiv. Plovdiv has an old Roman center. You can visit an amphitheater, you can visit some ruins. The city is sort of Ottoman style, very pretty, painted houses, really good food again, good restaurants. It's a nice little city that I definitely recommend going if you have a day trip. From Sofia, there's also a good day trip to the Rila Monastery. Bulgaria is, of course, Orthodox Christian. They have monasteries in the mountains all over the country, but Rila is very, very special. It's painted, sort of a kind of Ottoman theme, Greek theme. I don't know. It's pulling from a lot of different things, Bulgaria. So this monastery, it's very beautiful, and it's definitely worth the hike to get there because you definitely have to take a day trip. As we keep going east, there are a couple different spots. I stopped in a city called Stara Zagora, which is basically dead center in the middle. If you ever want to see just a normal Bulgarian city with not too much going on, Stara Zagora is a good one. It's a very it's just real life. And I like cities with real life. There's another city called Ruse, and it's right on the border on the Danube across from Romania. Also another good city to see some cool kind of Soviet-style architecture. We could call it Eastern Bloc architecture. And but just real life. Bulgaria, because it's not on such a tourist path, is not so popular with stuff to do, which I kind of like because you get to just explore the country and do your thing. And that's what I like when I travel. Next up, I went to a place called Veliko Tarnovo. Veliko is big. Tarnovo, I guess, is the place. It's an old Bulgarian castle fortress, high up on a hill. And then there's a kind of a little touristy town that sort of weaves its way down from the castle. That place was super cool. The Bulgarians, for a long period of time, were actually a pretty big, powerful kingdom in the Balkan region. And they built some pretty impressive stuff. So if you have the chance to see Bulgarian castles, definitely do it. Veliko Tarnovo might be the best example of this. But there are cool castles speckled across the country. This one is just very special. So I would definitely recommend get there early in the morning so you can if you could watch the sunrise from there, that would even be great. Because I remember showing up and we arrived a little bit late in the day and didn't get to spend as much time as we wanted to. Lastly, of course, there is the city of Varna. Varna is a very important city. It's kind of the second city. It's the seaside city. It's also sort of a gambling city. And then speckled along the coastline with the Black Sea, there are, of course, a lot of party towns like Sunny Beach and other places. Apparently kind of trashy, not the best, honestly. Varna has a very beautiful old town. The late 1800s style that you find popping up around the Balkans, influenced by the end of the Ottoman Empire, definitely left an impression on this region. So Varna is very pretty, and then you could fly out of there, or you could travel to Turkey, or you could go down and travel to Greece. I think the main part is that Bulgaria is a place that you can sort of just take in. Like, you could plan some things, okay, we want to do this, but maybe you just like have no plan and you just sort of explore. Maybe rent a car and see where it takes you, because the country, like side to side, maybe like 7 hours, 8 hours driving, it's not so big. It's very doable within a good amount of time, and there are great national parks to see along the way. There's really good hiking because it is in a sort of a mountainous region, and then it has the Black Sea coast. So I think Bulgaria has a lot to offer, and it's just not as expensive as other places you can go in Europe. So you get the kind of less touristed, less walked upon part of the earth, which is nice. You get the nice sort of nature that it's got, this very epic Bulgarian kingdom history, in a place that has pretty good weather, honestly. It does get cold in the winter, but you can also go skiing in Bulgaria if you wanted to. So I'm a big Bulgaria fan, and I think maybe you should be too. Well, I think that's going to do it for me in this video. If you want some travel consulting for your next trip to Bulgaria, hit me in the email below. Make sure to like and subscribe. That's super helpful. If you made it this far in the video, you're an absolute legend. And I always hope these travel guides are helpful. Please feel free to leave me a comment how I can make these better. I'm always trying to improve these videos to make sure that you guys have the best travel advice that I can personally give you. Keep traveling, keep exploring, keep learning, and I'll see you in Bulgaria.